Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, the 19th of October. Welcome to another morning live stream. Last night, during last night's live stream, there was an incident in Washington, D.C. around Capitol Hill, which we kind of reported during the live show, but things escalated since then, and we have some footage. This is about the so-called pro-Palestinian protest that was, as the media would say, largely peaceful until they decided to take over US Capitol and the whole building inside and outside. And we're going to talk about the people responsible, specifically one person who was present, made a speech, encouraged people to, get angry and everything else, riled up. And that is one of the members, senior members now, of the US Democrats. So we're going to come to the live chat as well to get your reaction as we go. So this is about what happened last night. Again, this event was organized and a lot of people were expecting a huge crowd. But in Washington, D.C., I can imagine the mainstream media, because they were all there, CNN and everybody was reporting, they weren't really expecting what they were about to see at the end. So you remember when back on the 6th of January 2021, whatever it was, when you had the situation with the Trump supporters, and inside that crowd there were also a lot of infiltrators who caused chaos, and we've got the evidence now, and the media immediately called it insurrection. So we're going to call this a pro-Hamas insurrection, just for the sake of it. Firstly, if you go into the building and you're causing chaos and you're chanting against the country, technically, yeah, you're against the country. So this is Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib, who's represents U.S. Democrat representative from Michigan. Her parents are Palestinian, or as we now say, American Palestinian. And she was present. She is basically sort of like the new Zara Sultana of the US Democrats. Sort of like Jeremy Corbyn's pet project, but an American version. She was elected as part of the group of nutters. Not necessarily the squad, but basically the same group of hard left, anti-American nutters. Now, this woman was there. We have a video, a part of her speech before they took over the US Capitol. It's a little bit concerning, considering her party leader and president is Joe Biden. They're supposed to be on the same side. They're not. They're all divided as well. Because Joe Biden had to be forced to, technically, in terms of rhetoric, take Israel's side while still funding Hamas. I know. But that's not enough for Rashida Tlaib and people like that. Let's go to her speech quickly.
To my president, to our president. Yes, he's still on. Well, hold on. I want him to know, as a Palestinian American, is also somebody of Muslim faith, I'm not going to forget this. And I think a lot of people are not going to forget this. And it's not a threat. It isn't. They think we're joking. I mean, I think the White House and everyone thinks that we're just going to sit back and let this just continue to happen. No. The fact of the matter is, our lives are not safe with you or the forever peach president. When are we going to feel safe? When are we going to stop funding continued, literally, oppression of indigenous communities? When are we going to say enough? It makes me so angry to have to say it, but I'm telling you, I'm talking to people that literally are like me. They literally believed in this party that was supposed to be inclusive of all of our opinions and our views and our political stance and all of these things. But what is starting to get really, really, really clear and very loud is that somehow many of us in this room, because of our political opinions, because maybe our faith is a certain faith, maybe because our ethnicity is a certain ethnicity, that somehow...
Oh, the land of the free, land of the brave, and now the terrorists. As Marty says here, Rashida Tlaib Rashida Tlaib got a little bit excited during that speech. She said, at the beginning of the speech, well, the clip, that Joe Biden, we are watching you, and we're not going to sit back, while you betray Palestinian people, even though he just literally gave millions of dollars to them. And then she said, but it's not a threat. It's not a threat. It's like, it's a promise. But then she said, we're just not going to sit back. And she started doing an angry rant. So that is a threat. It's a little bit treasonous, what they're doing. If she's going out there, standing on a podium, saying, I am primarily a Palestinian American and a Muslim. I know it was never written in the US Constitution, but there should be an element of it to say that, well, that person is not really serving the interests of the Americans. Probably best if you just get rid of her, and in terms of public office. But they don't have that. So free speech in America is huge. But that's kind of inciting violence if you're supporting a terrorist organization. But again, that's a conversation for the Americans. We have the footage, by the way, in terms of what happened inside and outside Capitol Hill. First, let's go to this clip. Yeah, so that was the lovely angry crowd who are not just chanting against Israel, but also America and Americans, and those are the people who live in America. There was a couple of problems with Rashida Tlaib's speech. One, she was talking about the indigenous people. Ooh, indigenous people, like it's the 15th century, right? If you're going to talk about indigenous people in that area, you do realize they are the Jewish people. The indigenous people in that area are the Jewish people. But clearly she doesn't know her basic history, even though her parents were Palestinian. But that aside, there must be a conversation to be had about these so-called Americans who get into public office and are still, and the same applies to the United Kingdom and France and other places, where they not only they bring the problems of the third world and other places here, but even when they get into the position of power, they're more busy talking about other problems, other countries, rather than the country that they are living in right now. Imagine if every single day I were to sit here and just talk about Iran for no reason. It would be irritating as well, but also a little bit defeatist. But it makes no sense. I'm sitting here in London talking about a different problem in the third world. So that was one of the clips that we had. And then this one shows there's a scale of the as I now call it, the pro-Hamas insurrection, because again, the CNN immediately called the 6th of January with the pro-Trump supporters and the infiltrators insurrection without actually knowing what's going on. Look at this. So, you know what they did, by the way? They think they're smart. They're not smart. They went and found a group of American Jews, a group of leftist American Jews, and that applies to a lot of the Western Jews as well, not all of them obviously, who don't really necessarily like Israel. And actually the Shah of Iran did an interview back in the 70s before they got rid of him, the Western globalists. He actually mentioned that there's a lot of the Western Jews who are actually undermining the concept of Israel because they're against Israel and they're more interested about in their own, obviously their own vested interests. But they found a few Jews, they took them to the Capitol Hill as part of this crowd, angry crowd, the pro-Hamas insurrection. And then they said, look, American Jews are against Israel. Like, so wait, hang on. Let's just hypothetically, for the sake of the argument, say they're not even just Jews. They are actually Israeli citizens and they're against Israel. You do realize you can find any group of citizens from any country that would be against their own country as well. There are literally British anarchists who would literally burn the flag, the Union flag. There are American anarchists, white, blonde American anarchists who would burn the American flag. There are Germans who are just ashamed. I mean, that's just Germans. They're just ashamed of their recent past. But that's a joke, Germany. Don't cancel me. I love Germany. But apparently they say, well, just because we found a few Jews in the West, in America, saying, well, yeah, we don't like Israel, that just undermines the concept of Israel. What? That makes... right now I'm sitting here. If I were to keep ranting about, let's just talk about my mother, who's a political refugee, actual refugee from Iran. If she were to say, well, I'm technically a British, Persian, whatever, and I'm against the Iranian state, people would say, oh, that's it then. All Iranians are against the state. There is no logic around this. So if you see any nutter giving you a picture or a video on social media or in person saying, look, during the London protest or New York or Berlin, look at the Jews. There are 7 Jews standing there saying we don't like Israel. Like, well done. Yeah, doesn't really prove anything, you idiots. The police at Capitol Hill eventually got their act together because they knew they can't really mess about this time. This isn't really just a crazy protest. These people could actually be a national security threat, and the police already got a lot of criticism because of the 6th of January. But watch this, they got basically they started arresting people. What's with the face snappies? Again, I can assure you, unless they are absolutely stupid, the face snappies are not there to hide their identity, because the facial recognition systems and everything else, you can see your eyes and your forehead and the shape of your face, then they can see who you are. Unless they are actually wearing the face snappies because they're concerned about the new variant or something, I don't know, I can't even keep up. It's idiocy, absolute idiocy. But again, there was a couple of you actually mentioned in recent live streams that it's good, the face masks, because you could actually identify who's an idiot and who's not. By seeing whether they are wearing it or not. So that happened. Let's go back to Rashida Tlaib, or Rashida Taliban. Rashida is a little bit of a nutter, right? She's supposed to be an elected politician for America, not just for America, for Michigan and for the US Democrats. The party that used to be, well, the US Democrats do have a dark history as a party, but then they became a liberal party, right? Technically. That era didn't last too long. You know, they post Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, they're no longer even a liberal party. They are kind of like a far lefty, fascisty, and or at best statist party. She, about a couple of years ago, no, it was back in 2019, she was going around Capitol Hill ranting about how Israel shouldn't exist and basically against the Jews. Jews, bad people, just get rid of them, all of them. She was already an elected politician. So we had the Fox News and other outlets going after her saying, can you clarify what you said? And then the moment the cameras were in her face, she was trying to deny it. Didn't go too well. But then literally yesterday, she was leading the pro-Hamas insurrection in Capitol Hill. Let's go to this video. It's a little bit disgusting, but it's fascinating.
So would that be right for Israel to exist?
Do they pay you guys? You work for Netanyahu.
Would you like to answer the question? Congresswoman, it's really concerning for me that you can't just say that you believe Israel should exist.
Oh my God, do you understand what that means?
I absolutely do.
So rude. So rude. Are you paid by Benjamin Netanyahu? I mean, look at her comments now, calling off U.S. funding for Israel.
It's hilarious. So, also, I do love those people who, when they disagree with something you say, they always say, well, who funds you? Or like, you know, are you paid by this or that? You do realize at that point it doesn't matter. If my TC is funded by, let's just say, okay, for the record, I'm going to clarify who I'm being paid for. I'm being funded by these people. CIA, Mossad, Kremlin, the CCP, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and who else do we have? MI6, don't forget those guys. Oh, Illuminati, about 5 lizards from Mars, Elon Musk's granddad, and a couple of Corbyn people. But it doesn't really matter at this point who funds my I2C if my I2C already has a platform, big platform, right? If my I2C is spreading hate or some sort of evil or treason, right? At this point, if you go around and say, well, let's find out who funds Maya, you do realize that doesn't really matter anymore because the funding has already happened. I already have a platform. I'm already influencing, right? I'm already brainwashing. So at this point, you'll probably be better off targeting me directly. Actually, don't do it. That's a bad idea. But it's a nonsensical argument. When Rashida Taliban goes around and asks a reporter, "Are you funded by Netanyahu?" So what? Even if she was at this point, she already has the microphone and the camera in your face, you idiot. Who funds you in that case? But again, we're not that stupid like them to go and ask the nonsensical question. Do you work for Netanyahu, my backside? All right, so let's go to the live chat to get your reaction, ladies and gentlemen. Batman says, my TC is funded by the Wombles. Yes. All right. I put my money on the Jews. They always make it alive. Yeah, I forgot. Yes, I did mention Mossad. Mossad also funds me. But they don't pay me that much. Pakistan pays more. Woody Wood, oh my gosh, she's a congresswoman. Yeah, I mean, she is a US representative, which is a little bit embarrassing. Anthony says, we love you, 2CTV. Thank you very much. Jake says, useful idiots. Let these people go to Muslim countries. They will not make it out alive. Yeah, Rashida Tlaib, if she goes to Palestine with her rhetoric and her very short sleeves tops, I think she will be in a lot of trouble. Ego Trip says, we know who funds her CCP red top. Just Paul 26 says, it just shows how messed up the whole system is. Well, the system was basically, it was a very specific system, the Western democracies. I know we still have technically different systems, America and Britain, but America and Britain are closer than France, for example, or other republics, because America replicated aspects of constitutional monarchy. They just turned the role of king into president, and they gave him 8 years. But that also allowed a lot of enemies to take advantage of the system, to actually easily get into and infiltrate and get elected. Oh dear. Sanity Clause says, Netanyahu has no spare cash. I know. I'm waiting for my invoice, guys. Oh yes, you forgot Klaus Schwab. Yes, I did. I forgot Uncle Klaus. Uncle Klaus gives me so much money. Absolutely, guys. What I love about Klaus Schwab is the guy's from East Germany, I believe, right? And he was able, it's absolutely impressive what Klaus Schwab has done over the last few decades. Managed to basically sell himself as a victim of the 20th century conflicts, right? So, oh, look at me, I'm such a good boy. And then became powerful, influential, and then created a massive lobby group and a think tank, and then got all the world leaders to come and listen to him. And then he was literally, in his videos, especially early days videos, in his office, behind him, he had like statues and busts of Lenin and Lenin and Marx and actual communists. And apparently that was normal. So Klaus Schwab was an actual Marxist, and he's selling himself as some sort of capitalist or whatever he is. I mean, he's a corporatist, obviously, but there's no difference. In corporate, you can technically, these days, you can be a fascist or a Marxist, and you can still be a corporatist. Look at China, for example. But yeah, the guy is very, it's impressive that he managed to initially fool people in the establishment decades ago. Then he started buying them out, essentially, just influencing policy. And nobody actually sat down and said, maybe we should stop this guy. Maybe we should stop listening to this guy. He's a bit of a commie. No, let's just listen to him. Teresa, Israel is a democracy. Good luck to these women working under an Islamic state. I know, right? Imagine if Rashida Tlaib tried to become the leader of Hamas. she would knock on the door of the Hamas headquarters in Gaza and say, guys, I've now defected from America. I'm now living here, and I have some experience as a politician. Should we have an election? I want to become leader. I think she will be deported to Rwanda immediately, or on a boat to Calais, to Dover. Bandingen says globalists are fascists. So let's see. I mean, one of the aspects of fascism was nationalism, but globalists want to also create multinational entities. So they technically are taking nationalism on a new level. So European Union, they're creating pseudo-nationalism for the 27 nation states. So technically, you can argue to an extent. But fascism was a very specific ideology. I think we could call them globalist, authoritarian, or tyrannical. Anger says, Stens talked by Maya. Yes, because it's still 10 a.m. If I were to talk about this at 4 p.m., or actually 9 p.m., I will be on a whole new level. Let's go to Angels of Death. Thank you so much for another super chat. The daily supporter of the channel, saying, "Don't forget me. I fund you around £80." Oh my god, that made me think actually. Hope my funding is keeping food on your table. I just realized Angels of Death actually is one of my biggest funders now. Every live stream we get a bit of super chat from. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate the support. You are now officially giving me more money than the CCP, Kremlin, and Mossad all put together. Right. Let's quickly. Smart Cookie says double standards from the political left in the US. It is really embarrassing what's going on, mainly because of the warnings that we have actually received. I mean, this woman, who when she was running to become the representative for Michigan, she was claiming to be so American. She was claiming to be so pro-liberal democracy, and she even joined the U.S. Democrats as a party, right? But the moment she was elected, she's been going around talking against the American interest, speaking against democracy, and speaking against humanity. The fact that she went out and essentially advocated for Israel and Jews to not exist, and then she said, "No, I was talking about coexisting." No, you didn't. It makes no sense why you change your argument just because the cameras are in your face. This is the summary of what happened last night. Yep, absolute nuttery behavior in Washington, D.C. I just got a very good message. Patriots Flow says, my 2CTV is funded by Angels of Death. Oh, that is factually correct. So, speaking of Rashida Tlaib or Rashida Taliban, she also, in case you missed it earlier, this is the speech she made before the protesters turned into a little bit of a rioters. She was threatening her own party leader and president, Joe Biden. I know. Watch this.
And to my president, to our president. Yes, he's still on. Well, hold on. I want him to know, as a Palestinian American, is also somebody of Muslim faith, I'm not going to forget this. And I think a lot of people are not going to forget this. And it's not a threat. It isn't. They think we're joking. I mean, I think the White House and everyone thinks that we're just going to sit back and let this just continue to happen. No. The fact of the matter is, our lives are not safe with you or the forever impeached president. When are we going to feel safe? When are we going to stop funding continued, literally, oppression of indigenous communities? When are we going to say enough? It makes me so angry to have to say it, but I'm telling you, I'm talking to people that literally are like me. They literally believed in this party that was supposed to be inclusive of all of our opinions and our views and our political stance and all of these things. But what is starting to get really clear and very loud is that somehow many of us in this room, because of our political opinions, because maybe our faith is a certain faith, maybe because our ethnicity is a certain ethnicity, that somehow...
Boring. No one cares about your ethnicity. Everyone cares about your stupid ideology, Rashida. So, as I mentioned earlier, one problem I have with her argument is that she's standing there saying, I'm Palestinian American, instead of saying she's American. Her parents were Palestinian. And then, so if that's your priority, then that's already a problem. You should not be elected in the first place. Secondly, she says, when it comes to that region, she says, indigenous people. Someone needs to tell Rashida, if you're going to talk about indigenous people at this point, considering the whole planet is now mixed anyway over the last 1,000 years, the Jews were the indigenous people in that area, not the Palestinians. Palestine was never a country. Anyway, and the Arabs are not even there. And this was way before Muhammad and his gang. That aside, let's talk about the fact that she went out there, threatened Joe Biden and said, we're not really, this is not a threat. And they think we're joking. I'm like, so you threatened him. And then you said, you're not threatening him, but you're not joking. You're very serious about threatening him. I think for a Palestinian American and a Muslim, she's a little bit drunk. She seemed drunk. I think it's going to be, I just realized I'm talking about an American. They could easily sue me for slander. I'm joking, Rashida Tlaib. You are not drunk. All right, as far as I know. Then things escalated. But on the plus side, the establishment were a little bit, obviously on top of everything for once. So the police decided to go in and arrest every single one of them. It was fun. I'm pretty sure they were chanting ceasefire now. If they were talking about ceasefire in the Middle East, it's probably best if you tell Hamas, Hezbollah and Iran to do that, because they are the ones who started it. Secondly, unless you're talking about the ceasefire in Capitol Hill, the police were just dragging the protesters out. Right? For once, the police in America were not shooting people. So calm down. And probably best if you stop wearing the face nappies, because it's a little bit embarrassing at this point. No one cares. You're not really hiding your face, because the security can still see your face through those face nappies. You absolute privileged, spoiled, anti-American idiots. Okay, let's quickly go back to this live chat with you guys. 1984 should be essential reading for everyone. Actually, 1948 should be essential reading for everyone, whatever that is. It's terrifying how much society is like the novel. It's interesting how it wasn't even just that book. There have been so many stories, screenplays and books and movies and TV shows made since early 20th century. And there were a couple of books in the late 19th century, dystopian future, right? Humans ignored those warnings, right? But it's absolutely natural. This is the problem with humanity. We subconsciously bury our heads in the sand. On the one hand, we are paranoid about the future, because we're always paranoid about death and about darkness, about the unknown, about the boogeyman, the whole world's against me, right? So there's different levels. But despite the fact that we are paranoid about the dystopian future, we don't want to think about it, so we end up burying our heads in the sand. So when there are, for example, movies or books about it, we will say, oh, it's just fiction, even though we know it could happen. But when it's actually happening, we still bury our heads in the sand, because we say, it's basically denial. And then when it's happened, it's already basically messed up. We basically say, oh, it's too late now. What? But this is exactly why we keep doing this as a race, as a human race. But there are always a few people, a few good people who lead movements. There are always a few people in the minority of the human race who stand up and lead everybody else. And it feels like it's difficult at this point to see who can actually defend the Western values. Steve Sharman says, you need a history lesson, Mr. Tusi. Is it about the history of the human race, or the 1984, or Israel being Israel, the first kingdom? But no, apparently. So let me know, Steve, which history you're talking about, considering this was my area since I was a kid, but okay. Let's see. Let's go back. Don't worry, the US is turning into the movie Idiocracy. America was always a very rogue system, but the rogueness of the Americans combined with a very, very fascinating unity, despite the differences that they have in each 50 states, was the success of America. But my idea that I had, the theory I had about how America went down, that the pioneers were very different. Then you had, obviously the people who then built the rest of it. Then prosperity came. Late 19th century and early 20th century, when things were basically ready, America was built. Then the new wave of mostly Europeans, when they went there, even though the first wave were also Europeans, but the second big wave of Europeans who went there after America was already built, that was the beginning of the end, the fall of America, because when everything's already built, you attract a different type of people. When it's not built, you attract adventurers, people who want to build, people who want to take a risk and say, I choose to go there. If I live, I thrive. If not, I'll die. But when it was already built, a lot of Europeans, especially with all the problems in Europe, then ended up going to America, and then they were entitled. They said, well, I need the state to help me. Or if I lose my job, I need money. Or if I do this, I need that. Basically, I need help. Why did you go to America? You could have stayed in Europe. America was never supposed to be for that reason. But then they pushed and with Karl Marx and his ideology. Then FDR came and said, let's do the New Deal. Let's basically turn America into Europe. And that was the beginning of the end. America should have been completely left alone as a country. It was supposed to be a unique land. Nobody forces you to go there. But if you choose to go there, don't expect socialism or social democracy. If you want that, if you want safety net, stay in Europe. Then shut up. But they went there. They turned America into Europe. And that was the beginning of the end. Then America became the world police, like idiots, because the British Empire went down. And things got even more complicated. And there were a number of control freaks in the philosophical corners of America who wanted to be warmongers from the beginning. Unfortunately, they took over in the 20th century. And then everything else happened. The ideologies that were against democracy in America are literally taking over up to a point where we got the US representatives, elected politicians, working against the interests of America and Americans. Just before we finish, let's quickly show you Rashida Tlaib, what she said in 2019 when she essentially went and said Israel and the Jews shouldn't exist. And when she was confronted by Fox, she was saying, oh, no. I didn't say don't exist, I said coexist. Watch this.
So would that be right for Israel to
So do they
exist?
pay you guys? You work for Netanyahu.
Would you like to answer the question? Congresswoman, it's really concerning for me that you can't just say that you
Oh, I
believe
said
Israel should
coexist.
exist.
Oh my God, do you understand what that means?
I
To
absolutely
coexist?
do.
So rude. So rude.
Yes.
Are you paid by Benjamin Netanyahu? I mean, look at her comments now, calling off U.S. funding for Israel.
It's brilliant, isn't it? So this is Rashida Taliban. Thank you to I forgot your name. Sorry, the one of our viewers who gave me the idea of Rashida Taliban instead of Rashida Tlaib. We are going to be busy today. Also, we have a new website in case you haven't noticed, 2ctv.com. Definitely check the website throughout the day because we actually update the website with the news articles and breaking news. So it's not always just videos on this actual 2CTV, but 2ctv.com, you could actually check throughout the day regularly to get your news from there. Don't check BBC or Sky, there's no need for that. I now have to go to, unfortunately, to a family funeral, but then I'll be back later this afternoon. We're going to start the shows there around 3 p.m. onwards, and then we're going to do a couple of live shows late afternoon and early evening as usual. Thank you so much to everybody, especially all those who've been supporting me and through super chats and becoming a member of the channel. Do that as well. And especially Angels of Death, thank you again for all the support. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.